Onto this now, the U.S. Congress will next week begin the process of reviewing the eligibility of countries for benefits under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. It's widely expected to be renewed again for another 10 years when it expires in 2025. But what will South Africa's position be? For more on this, we speak to trade expert Donald MacKay from the eNCA International Trade Advisors. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Donald. So do you think that the U.S. could decide to remove South Africa from AGOA or limit the level of trade that South Africa can do with the United States following a conclusion of these discussions?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we run a risk of potentially even being removed before the end of 2025 when this round kind of runs its course. But absolutely, that is a risk. And I think a lot of that risk is determined by what we do in the course of the next few weeks and months. For example, does President Putin arrive in South Africa for the BRICS summit? Does the president's investigation reveal that there actually were weapons on the Lady R? All of these will have an effect, and certainly AGOA would be one of the levers that the US could pull if they wanted to punish South Africa.
And I mean, one would think that South Africa is, the US rather, is an important or has become a very important trading partner with South Africa. And so one would wonder the kind of conversation South Africa would need to have with the relevant stakeholders within the United States should they be considering to cancel the deal altogether. What kind of discussions would you anticipate them to have to convince them that you're a key trading partner and we actually do need you? Yeah,
so I mean, part of the challenge we have here is that we need the US, but they really don't need us. So the US accounts for about 9% of all of our exports, which is a huge amount. But that 9% accounts for about 0.3% of their imports. So that imbalance makes this whole situation a little bit harder to deal with. But I think the US is less looking for endless amounts of ministers traveling overseas to meet with them. I think what the US is looking for is for South Africa to actually behave as if they are non-aligned, rather than saying they're non-aligned, but then doing lots of things which appear to favor Russia.
And so before I move on to another separate issue very briefly, Donald, it's a tough balancing act that they are doing between politics and trade here in South Africa. And unfortunately, as we've seen with our government, we've been unable to separate the state from the political party. This will probably be detrimental for the country's economic future if we don't, if we can't separate the state from the party.
Yes, and I absolutely agree. And that is a problem, and it's a particularly hard problem to solve because really only the party in charge can create that very important separation.
And then finally, we've got the Trade and Industry and Competition Minister, Ibrahim Patel, rejecting an application by local food producers, Nature's Garden, for a near threefold increase in customs duties on frozen mixed vegetables that are imported mainly from China. So the local industry is saying these imports really undermine their competitiveness. What do you make of developments such as this one? We've had various industries, the sugar industry and others, complain about the trade policies when it comes to customs on imports in South Africa and what that does to local producers or the entire value chain for important industries.
Yeah, this is a somewhat bewildering case. The report has not yet been issued, so we don't entirely know all of the reasons. But the bewildering part of this investigation is that it took almost 5 years, and you're not hearing me wrong, almost 5 years for this investigation to be completed. Now, a tariff investigation of this nature is meant to be wrapped up in 6 months, and that's not my 6 months. That's ITAC's own 6 months. You can get it on their website. So when we're at 53 months, which would make it 47 months overdue, that is simply astonishing. And so it makes it very difficult to understand, based on how old the information was, how the minister decided on what he did, given the data was so old. It's a peculiar decision.
No, absolutely. And hopefully we'll be able to get the Minister on in the coming days to unpack that and other issues around trade. Thank you very much for your time, Donald. That is Donald MacKay from the eNCA International Trade Advisors, breaking down the risks that South Africa faces when those discussions around the AGOA deal take place from next week. With that, here's a look at your markets this evening.